Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you're well. Now, over the last few days, there's been a very important debate that's arisen, and it's over who has the eligibility to be able to vote in our elections, who has the eligibility in order to stand as an MP, who has the eligibility to enable you to stand as a councillor, and so on and so on and so on, mayors and all the rest of it. You see where I'm going. And there's various social commentators, there's various politicians, there's various leaders of political movements, and various celebrities and other individuals with aspirations who are all saying only British should be able to vote, only British should be able to stand, only British should have a say. Now, you get what they mean in that they're trying to narrow it down and they're trying to protect what is ours. But there is a certain amount of naivety attached to this. And I think it is very, very, very important that we go through this as a subject to talk about it in this video. Now, I want to start with this. This is something Restore Britain put up. Only Brits should be allowed to vote and stand in UK elections. Reform UK recently revealed that one of their candidates for the Portsmouth local elections is a Bangladeshi national. He was not born in the UK. He does not have British citizenship. So why is he permitted to stand for elected office? Bangladesh is a Commonwealth country, and under the Representation of the People Act 1983, Commonwealth citizens are permitted to stand and vote in local elections in the United Kingdom. This absurd, outdated legislation must be amended to prohibit non-UK citizens from standing and voting in UK elections. In addition, new laws must be introduced that make the process and criteria for acquiring UK citizenship far stricter. Non-Brits should not be involved in British politics in any capacity. It is deeply unjust and unbecoming of a self-respecting nation. Now, there's one thing I want to say straight away, and that is the fact that we do not need new laws. And the reason I say that is that the laws are there already to protect us. Now, what has happened? They've been vandalized over the years. It's as simple as that. I can't put it any plainer than that. They've been vandalized. For example, that part of the Representation of the People Act is completely and utterly wrong. And what should happen in the first instance, it should be voided. Now, you void instead of repeal because all the other laws hanging off of that are then defunct. Now, the other thing I want to show you as well, I talk about laws that already exist. Let's have a look at this. This is the Act of Settlement. And I've highlighted the relevant part. That after said limitation shall take effect, as aforesaid, no person born outside of the kingdoms of England, Scotland, or Ireland, or the dominions thereto belonging, made of denizens except such are, born of English parents, should be capable to be the Privy Council, a member of the House of Parliament, or to enjoy any office or place or trust, either civil or military, as to have any grant, lands, tenements, or herediments from the Crown to himself. Now, that particular part of the Act of Settlement was actually put in there to protect us from the Dutch, because they were coming over, installing themselves in positions of authority and having it away with all our money. So that's why that was there. But the actual principle applies to everything later on. Now, I'm not going to go into the full detail about the Act of Settlement and how that particular document has been vandalized, but suffice it to say, things have been altered and things have been added to and messed around with, which removes that constitutional protection from our laws. And that's why we are having all the problems with what's-his-face from Bangladesh turning up now. Now, the other thing I want to mention is the British Nationality Act, which I've mentioned before. The British Nationality Act, 1948 and 1981. And again, they're an example of constitutional vandalism, because what's happened, you have a section which I've just read to you in the Act of Settlement, which protects us. And then later on down the line in 1948, which was done under the auspices of a Fabian-led Labour government, Clement Attlee, they insert a repeal in the Act of Settlement 1948, which took away that protection. So then what we have to do is go in there and void that repeal and put that protection back in. It's very simple. Now, in the case I read out with Restore Britain, they're saying it's a member of the Commonwealth and everything else. But when you say British, you are completely missing the point, because British is just a nationality. Now, prior to 1948, there was no such thing as a British nationality. Yes, there was Great Britain. Yes, there was the United Kingdom, all brought about by the Acts of Union in 1706 and 1707. Yes, there is the British Isles. The British Isles is the group of islands all of our countries sit on. But the actual British nationality itself, 1948, not one day before. And if you get Abdul from Afghanistan come in, or you get Syed from Iraq come in, or anybody of that nature, they stay long enough, they are then granted British citizenship. So when the politicians and all the people I mentioned before turn around and say, oh, only Brits can do this, you're inadvertently including all of the demographic that you want to exclude from the issue. Do you follow? This is why I end up knocking my head against a brick wall. And I could call out lots of names here, but you point it out to all of these people, and by God, they don't listen, they ignore. So either they're not getting it due to ignorance or not educated in it, they get it and they're ignoring because it's not the way they want to steer things, or something more nefarious is going on. We have to be so careful with everything that's going on in this country, who you believe, who you go for. Restore Britain and Rupert Lowe are that close, but they're still off the target because of the mention of British Britain. What I want to do to finish this video off, I want to run through a thread with you, and I want to read to you what's in this thread. Please listen, please soak it in. Please understand what I'm saying, and hopefully it will give you the idea, and you start thinking, maybe, might Andy maybe have a point, you know. Well, let's go through this, all right? Now, what I've got here is a header image. The big lie about British people voting or standing for office. Okay, so let's read this through together. You'll hear people say only British people should vote. Only British people should stand for office. Sounds reasonable? Until you realise something most people don't know. British isn't a people. It's a nationality from 1948. 2, British is a paper identity created by politicians through the 1948 and 1981 Nationality Acts. It can be handed to anyone. It has nothing to do with the native nations of these isles, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and I was reminded the other day, Southern Ireland, and Cornwall. Now, somebody asked me, funnily enough, why I put Cornwall on the list. They have a very distinct identity. They have a very distinct culture, and there is mentions of them in previous historical texts where they were a nation of their own, you know, their own right, and self-determination is a very important thing in all this. Number 3, so here's the constitutional disaster. People with no ancestral, cultural or historical link, which is very important, to any of these nations can now vote, stand for office, shape laws, hold authority over the native peoples, all because a piece of legislation calls them British. Think about it. Number 4, this directly violates a principle found in our constitution. The English do have a constitution partially codified in things like the Act of Settlement, the Bill of Rights. And again, this is a lie you're being told, that we don't have one. It was designed to ensure authority in England can only be held by those born of English parents. Why? To prevent foreign influence, foreign allegiance, and foreign control. Remember what I said about the Dutch? And by the way, another thing to point out with the English is it's not about race, because if you think about the Dutch, they're white. Number 5, whether you agree or not that constitutional safeguard existed for a reason, it protected the English nation, and by extension the other nations, from being ruled by people with no cultural or ancestral stake in the realm. The modern British nationality system blew that safeguard apart. Remember that repeal that I told you about. Number 6, the result. This is important. We now have people in positions of power who don't share our history, don't share our constitutional inheritance, don't share our values, and in some cases openly work against the interests of the native nations. But they're British on paper, so it's allowed. 7, this isn't about race, as I said. This isn't about hatred. This is about constitutional integrity and national self-preservation. Every nation on earth has the right to define who may vote, stand for office, hold authority. We used to. 8, if we want legitimate elections and real national protection, the solution isn't tighten the rules for British citizens. It's this. We scrap the artificial British nationality system that replaced real nations with a bureaucratic label. Now, at this point, are you understanding what I'm saying? Restore the English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish and Cornish nations. Restore the constitutional safeguards. Restore accountability. Because the truth is simple. British was created to dilute nations, not protect them. And the last one, if people want authority in our nations, they should belong to those nations, not a label invented in 1948. The longer we avoid this truth, the worse the consequences become. Thread ends. That is what it is all about, people. And you get all of these politicians, you get all of these activists, you get all of these well-meaning folks who have no education, haven't sought to look what's going on, follow the crowd, follow the news story that's going to get them the clicks. Meanwhile, you're encouraging a system that's fucked us all up, to be quite blunt. And I'm just a working class cab driver from the southeast of England. I worked it all out. What's stopping you? Please think about what I've said. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share this on your social media. I'm going to dump it around mine. Play it back if you have to. It's very, very important that you and everybody else understands exactly what's going on with our nationality, the way the union is made up, what government is doing to us, and the potential consequences if we go around like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed bullshit. You know it as well as I do. Thank you for listening. As always, I look forward to talking to you soon. Toodaloo.